What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Did you know that improper watering is one of the main reasons gardeners run into pest and disease problems? Today, I'm going to share with you a few mistakes you cannot afford to make when watering your garden. Let's go! It's kind of funny. On the surface, watering seems simple. You just take some water and pour it on your plants, right? But as many of you know, watering is one of the most misunderstood and overlooked skills in the entire garden. In my last video, I saw a few of you ask, James, how are your tomatoes already that big? I live in New Jersey, the person said. My tomatoes aren't that big. And someone else said, how are you already harvesting cabbages and cauliflower? I'm in New Jersey as well. And my cauliflowers and my cabbages aren't even close. Well, actually, that reminds me, we've got a cauliflower over there. We should grab one of those. I'm gonna bring you over to this cauliflower right here. It looks absolutely beautiful. Come take a peek at it before I grab it. Look at the color on that thing. Look at the beauty of that. It's actually crazy. Let me grab this right here. And as I do, I'll talk about something. And the reason I'm able to get stuff so early and to get plants so big and healthy is, well, the truth is I do the basic things right. Let's check out this. As we start to pull it back. Oh yeah, look at that. Massive, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So I do the basic things right. And when it comes to gardening, watering is considered one of those basic things, but in reality, it's actually much deeper than it appears to be. My goal is to make watering your garden simpler for you. I'm going to share some ideas of things that you probably have never heard of or maybe even thought of. Things that I've learned from years of hands-on experience. I just don't want to show you how to properly water your garden. I also want to share with you the why and the when. This way the how truly sinks in. Let's start by diving into the why. All plants need 4 basic things: water, air, light, and nutrition. The thing is, water isn't just about hydration. It's actually the delivery system that connects everything else. It's the basis for all life. But even too much of a good thing can quickly become a bad thing. With improper watering, there's a host of different issues that can arise. For example, when tomatoes get blossom end rot, a lot of new gardeners go online, they look up blossom end rot, and they find out that it's due to lack of calcium. And then they figure, that's good. I'll go out, I'll add some calcium to the soil, and that should fix the issue when it comes to the blossom end rot. The thing is, there's probably enough calcium in the soil. The reason you're getting blossom end rot though is because the plant isn't able to actually get that calcium. The reason it's not able to get the calcium is because calcium is immobile in a plant. What that means is when there's new growth, or if a new fruit is forming and that fruit needs some calcium in order to form correctly, that the plant can't take calcium from some of the older growth and then transport that to the newer growth. Instead, the calcium has to be transported directly from the soil up into the roots through the plant and then to that new piece of fruit. If we don't have water, then our plant can't get calcium. And no calcium means blossom end rot. So in reality, the issue isn't usually from a lack of calcium in the soil. The issue is from uneven watering and that plant not being able to take up calcium and transport it to the new fruit or the new growth. Unfortunately, improper watering practices will also lead to increased pest pressure. Let me give you an example. Say we're growing cucumbers. When growing cucumbers, one of the worst things about it is having to deal with the dang cucumber beetles. Those things can decimate your plants when they're young. The thing is, what attracts the cucumber beetle is a chemical compound found in cucumbers known as cucurbitacin. So the higher level of cucurbitacin in our plants, the more attractive they are to the cucumber beetles. The thing is, when our plants get too dried out, and cucumbers need a lot of water, a cucumber is made of 95% water, so they do need a good amount. When our plants dry out too much, it causes the plant to get stressed out. And yep, you guessed it. When the plant gets stressed out, that increases the level of cucurbitacin in the plant, which then draws in more of the cucumber beetles. So bad watering practices draws in bad bugs. One more example of how improper watering can cause issues with your plants is when it comes down to it. Certain plants, if you water them the wrong way, then you could open the floodgates for disease issues. Some of your fruiting plants like tomatoes and cucumbers, and there are some other ones I'll share a little bit later, if you get those leaves wet, the longer those leaves are wet, the higher the chance that your plant will develop a disease. So when it comes down to it, there's a right way to water and there's a wrong way to water, which we'll get into more as we flow through this video. We got into the why, now let's shift over to when you should be watering your garden. When it comes to gardening, watering, or any aspect of gardening, timing is always key. And when it comes to watering, it's always better to be proactive instead of reacting. Let me give you an example. Today it's obviously hot out. I mean, I'm sweating just walking around and talking to you. I mean, I'm sweating directly through my shirt. And you know what? This is a lot of stress on the plants too with this level of heat. But what you don't want to do is come out midday and water all these plants when you start to see them wilt, or you start to see them maybe drop down, start to look a little sad like they're thirsty. That would be a reaction to something. Instead, we want to be proactive. We want to go out there in the morning before the heat comes and give these plants a nice deep watering. This way it gives them plenty of time to soak up that water and be completely hydrated, so when the heat comes, they can actually deal with that heat because they've taken the time to, soak that water up. They're ready for the heat. They're prepared because we were being proactive when it comes to our watering. Another thing is, when you water your plants, you could also water them in the evening if you want. That's fine too. I mean, you don't want to water midday, obviously, unless you have to. I mean, if you have to water midday because they're thirsty, they're thirsty. But watering in the evening is a good option as well. Just make sure when you're watering in the evening that you do not get the leaves wet. This way the leaves don't remain wet the whole entire night. It's better to water, if you're going to water in the evening, right at the base. Now that we covered some of the basics, let's actually get into how to water your plants the right way, because how you water your plants will affect how that plant grows. Let's just say you go out there every day and water the plants just a little bit with a light watering. You would think that's a good thing. I mean, the top of the soil, that's remaining moist, so things might be good. But when it comes down to it, shallow watering leads to plants that have shallow roots that are relatively weak. Instead, what we want to do is go out there and give the plants a deep watering. Deep watering leads to plants with deep roots that are strong and produce well. Ideally, you want your watering to penetrate at least 12 inches into the soil. This is about how deep most annual roots grow, and this is also about how deep your raised bed should be filled with good soil. I want to mention that I'm going to show you how I water my garden, and I'm also going to show you a really new cool automated system of watering that I just recently set up that I'm super excited about, and I think it will make a massive difference and it'll be a big time saver in the garden. So basically, if we're not watering deep, what will happen is our raised bed, the soil under the first few inches will start to dry out. If that soil goes bone dry, then the roots won't want to grow down into it because there's no moisture. So your roots will stay close to the surface and your plants will be weak. Another unfortunate thing is that when you let the soil completely dry out, then it is kind of hard to get rehydrated. It's almost like the soil becomes like a little hydrophobic. It like resists water, especially if you're using something like peat moss. This actually happened to me a few years ago in this bed that I'm next to right now. I allowed the bed to dry out too much. Then when I wanted to plant my garden in the fall, what I had to do was just thoroughly rehydrate the bed. I had to set up like a soaker hose and then go through and I had to mix up all that soil to make sure it got rehydrated. It ended up being a lot of work. One of the good things was though that I was using coco coir, and it seems like coco coir is better at accepting water when it's super dry. It doesn't seem to be as hydrophobic as something like the peat moss gets when it's really, really dry. A lot of bad can come from allowing your soil to dry out, even if it isn't extreme. Let me give you an example. Say you're growing something like watermelons or tomatoes. If you allow your soil to dry out a bunch, then you come by with the heavy watering, then it's going to be such a big contrast from completely dry to that heavy rush of water, and that might overload your plant. What will happen is that water will move through the plant, it'll send it to the fruit, and then the inside of the fruit will grow so quickly that the outside won't be able to keep up with it. Then your fruit will crack open or split when it comes to tomatoes, and that's just not very good. Another thing that will happen is if you allow your soil to dry out too much, then you could be killing off a lot of the microorganisms in your garden, because a lot of these living things in the soil are essentially aquatic. They need the water to move around. You're probably thinking, okay, I'll just go out and water my garden every single day with the deep watering to make sure that the soil is consistently saturated. Well, that's not good either, because too much water can cause problems as well. When you water your garden really deeply and it becomes super saturated, at first that's okay. But if you go out there every day to do that, it's not going to be good. When the soil is super saturated, what happens is the water pushes out the oxygen in the soil, and our roots need oxygen to survive. So too much watering can cause a number of problems. When it comes down to it, we've got to find that happy balance that I'll explain to you and help you find. What we want is to go out, give our plants a deep watering and allow them to be saturated. Then give them some time where the water can be taken up by the plant until the soil is relatively moist. Then when it's moist, we want to go back out and water. What we want is to give our plant the time to actually, for those roots to breathe a little bit before we water them again. Just think about it, you know, for a normal person, I mean a human. What we do is we're thirsty, we grab a drink, we drink it, then we stop and take a breath. Breathe a little bit, and then when we're thirsty, we take a drink again. That's the same thing we want with our plants. We go out there, we water them, we give them time to uptake that water from the soil through the roots. That dries out some of the soil, then that opens up pockets of air within the soil. That kind of goes back to why soil structure is so important. The better the structure, the more holes we have for pockets of air to fill. So we let that water get sucked up by the plant. That opens up pockets of air where the roots can tap into some of the oxygen. After that, we come by and water the plant again. This is when mulch plays such an important role. Having a mulch down allows the soil to dry out relatively slowly. Another thing is when we have that mulch down, as the plant takes up some moisture from the soil, then that mulch makes it so the moisture within the soil, it like dries out relatively evenly. If we don't have a mulch down and the hot sun is beating on the soil, then what happens is the surface of the soil dries out really quickly, and then maybe down a few inches, it's still saturated. If you come back and water, then the soil down there is going to just remain saturated, and that's not good. When we have a mulch down, we get that even drying out, which is much healthier and it's much better for the roots. When we get this mulch down, that helps keep the soil temperature consistent and makes it so there's not huge fluctuations. This puts less stress on the plants and allows the roots and the plants to grow much better. Whatever mulch you use, that's up to you. I like using something like a diced leaf mulch or even a wood chip mulch. Organic mulches are always my favorite, but the whole idea is to cover the soil so that the sun doesn't get direct contact or can't directly hit that soil. You'll notice in a bed like this, if you come take a look, I don't even have a mulch down, but I plant things so densely that we essentially have a living mulch with how dense everything is planted in here. There's not many spots where the light can hit the soil simply because we have things planted super dense, yet everything is still growing super healthy. You might be thinking, James, you have a bunch of fruit trees. How do you water all of those fruit trees? Well, when it comes down to it, my fruit trees, I only water them the first 2 years just so they can get established. After that, they can kind of tap into the water table a little bit. And there's another thing that I do which makes a massive difference. Come in here. What I do is I always make sure that I have a very thick wood chip mulch down underneath my plants. What that does is it brings in all this right here, the fungi. This is incredibly important in my garden and it ties directly into water. So what I like to do is get this thick wood chip mulch down. The reason I love the wood chip so much is because it creates the perfect environment for a kind of fungi known as mycorrhizal fungi. This forms a symbiotic relationship with the roots of plants. The cool thing is that this fungi can stretch, in an unlimited amount of space. So what I do is I wood chip my whole entire garden with the hope that the whole garden, all of the ground becomes inoculated with that mycorrhizal fungi, and then it's like all attached underneath through the mycelium, which are essentially like the roots of the fungi. So what happens is my plants can actually tap into that fungi. Here's how it goes. So the fungi grows and eats all the wood chips and stuff, right? It expands, it gets throughout the whole entire garden. Then the roots of my tree tap into the mycelium directly, and there's a symbiotic relationship that's formed. So essentially this plant photosynthesizes, creates sugars, and gives those sugars to the mycelium, to the mycorrhizal fungi. In return, the mycorrhizal fungi can give the plant access to water and nutrition. The cool thing about that is it can give access to the plant, that water and nutrition, from spots where the roots of this plant can't reach. But since the mycelium is a massive network moving through a huge amounts of space, it could transfer nutrients and water from a different location, bring it to my apples, and that kind of makes it so I don't have to water as much because I've created a system and a network where the water is supplied by the fungi. I know that system of using that thick mulch and tapping into mycorrhizal fungi, that's not gonna work for everyone in every situation to not water at all, especially if you live in the South and like Texas where it gets super hot. But regardless, having a thick mulch down and bringing in those beneficial fungi will help greatly when it comes to your watering and with water conservation and to keep the soil consistently moist. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you guys how I water my tomato plants. After that, I'll show you the new automatic watering system that I have set up. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. So check out my tomatoes right here. When it comes to watering the tomatoes, I always like to go by hand and go and water all my tomato plants. The reason I like to do it by hand is I like to make sure that I definitely get a deep watering in there, but when I'm out here, if I haven't mulched yet, like I'm about to in a day or two, I can go by and pick any weeds that might have sprouted. This also gives me time to go by and check on the health of the tomato plants and see if they need anything additional. Another thing you'll notice is when I grow my tomatoes, I've built like this bed, this small raised bed that it's not high, but what this does is when I water, you'll notice all this water stays within this raised bed. So if you move this way too, all the water is staying within the raised bed, so no water is being wasted, allowing me to efficiently water all these plants and make sure that I know all this water is going right towards the root zone. Another thing you'll notice is I always make sure, we'll just leave this here and let some water soak, because this is how I'll do it sometimes. We also want to make sure that our raised beds are always level. That's super important. This way, when we water, it can evenly disperse throughout the bed. Instead of if it's unlevel, then all the water can pool up to one side, and that's definitely not what we want. So simple things can make big differences in the garden, and hand watering your tomatoes, I mean, that's how I do it. That's not how I do it for all my beds. Because some plants, they don't mind an overhead watering. Getting the leaves wet isn't that big of a deal. So a lot of my spring crops, like my brassicas, say my cabbage, my cauliflower, some of my lettuces and stuff, I'll use an overhead watering for that. I've got no problem with it because, you know, it doesn't seem to bother the plants that much and they don't get too disturbed by fungal issues. But once my cauliflowers start to head up, I make sure that I'm not doing any overhead watering, because if the water sits on that cauliflower head for too long, it'll start to rot and that could ruin our harvest. So when it comes down to it, different plants like watering in different ways, but if in doubt, always water at the base. So for a lot of your crops, your summer crops especially, like your squash, your eggplants, your tomatoes, your cucumbers, your peppers, all those you want to make sure you're watering at the base. The less you get the leaves wet, the less chance of getting disease problems. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, watering your garden isn't just about giving it hydration. When we water our garden, that's also how the plants take up nutrients so that they can grow well and perform well and produce a lot of fruit for us. That's why when transplanting into your garden or before planting anything, we need to make sure that we go out and add an all-purpose fertilizer. It's also super important that we go out when our plant starts to hit the fruiting stage and we give them a top dressing of an all-purpose fertilizer. The reason this is so important is because we're going to be continually going out there and watering our garden. So if we water our garden and there isn't enough nutrition in the soil, or if we're not fertilizing the plants as we water them, then we're essentially just going to be flushing all the nutrients out of the plants. I mean, if we water and there's no nutrients in the soil, it's just going to be water washing through, flushing out all the nutrients, and as a result, our plants will slow down in growth. You might see some leaves turning pale, And you might even see some plants start to like panic sort of and start producing fruit when they're super young, simply because we're using water like as something that's like a disadvantage instead of an advantage. So instead of every time we're watering that feeding the plants with some fertilizer because we have an all-purpose fertilizer mixed into the soil, if we don't have that, then we're just gonna be watering our plants, flushing out all the nutrition, and our plants will suffer. Watering your garden properly is tricky because there's no way to make a blanket statement and just be like, you need to water your whole garden, every plant, half an inch every single day. There's just so many different factors that play into how much to water and when to water. Something like the size of your plant. Obviously, if the plant's smaller, it's going to take up water a lot slower than if it's bigger. If it's bigger, you're gonna have to water it more often. Or if it's heading into the fruiting stage and it's starting to put on a lot of fruit, then that fruit's gonna take more water, so you're gonna have to make sure you go out there and water more regularly. Or even if it's just temperature based. On a day like today, the plants are transpiring so much to try to keep themselves cool that they're gonna be uptaking a lot of water, which means you're gonna have to go back the next day or so and water more, simply because it's so dang hot. I mean, it's wicked hot. Also, if you have a mulch down, if you don't have a mulch down, you're gonna have to go out there and water more regularly than if you do have a mulch down. So there's so many different factors when it comes to watering. The best thing to do is to get out there, get your hands dirty and get them moist. If you have a good mulch down and you wanna see if your plants need some more water, you can just go in there, touch the soil a few inches down, make sure it's relatively moist. If it's dry, come out and water. If it looks super saturated, then definitely do not water. There are a few other important things that I want to mention. One of them is have an idea of the quality of your water before you start giving it to your plants. So I've seen a mistake made, and I've almost made it myself in the past, where the location I live in here and the other homestead too, I have well water, and the water is hard. So to soften the water, it goes through a water softener. The thing is, what's used to soften the water is salt. So if you water your garden with water that has gone through the water softener, then it's going to be salted and you're going to be salting your garden. Instead, what you need to do is get the water when it comes out of the well before it goes into the water softener. That's just one example of how poor water can lead to poor plants. Just make sure you have a good idea of your water. If your water is from the city or something and it has a high level of chlorine in it, then you might want to let your water sit for a little while, or try to do something to make sure that you're not just chlorinating all of your plants, because that definitely would not be a good thing. Let me show you my new automatic watering system that I have set up. I've got it set up in most of my beds now, and I've had for a good amount of time. It works incredibly and it's super easy to set up. Let me just show you how I do it really quick. So I'm going with the Vego irrigation kit. This thing is insanely good. Let me just open it up and show you how quick and easy it is. This is the whole thing contained right here. So let's pop this open. Then we're just gonna open this bag here, grab these. This is the intricate part of it. We'll take this, right? We take our screws that were in our bed. We bring this over right to here. And then all we gotta do is just screw this in, just like this. Boom, just like that, attached. Then we'll go by and grab a number of these and snap it in just like this. Boom. After that, I'll show you what to do next after I do with the rest on the whole bed. This thing sets up so quick. Let's get this last one attached. Now we have them all attached. You can see the top hole throughout the whole bed have these connectors on them. It's really quick and simple to do. Next, what we're gonna do is go back in here and we're gonna start running our line. We need this, but we also need the tool to actually cut this. So I'm gonna grab this, open it up. Here's the tool we need. So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this water line, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna push this into the connector, just like this, all the way. Then I'm going to take this water line, we're gonna run it along the side of the bed, and then run it to this collar right here. And then I'm gonna make a mark, just like this. We're gonna grab this tool, and then right on our mark, we're gonna drop this tool down and keep the point right there, and just close it. Boom, perfect cut. Now we're gonna take this, push it in all the way, and that's our first line ran. We're gonna do that same thing throughout the whole bed. Same thing, we'll take this, push it in, just like that. Use the shape of the bed to there, grab our Sharpie, mark it, then our tool. Make sure the tool is pressing down the pointy part of the tool and drop it in. Next, push it in, that's it. We're gonna do that same thing around the whole bed. Quick, easy, and customizable. We got the last one cut. We're just gonna put it in, just like that. Now, take a step back. You can see all the lines are run around the whole bed. Super easy to do. After that, we're gonna do the next step. We're gonna take one of these with the shut-off valves on them. We're gonna take this and we're just gonna actually rotate this up because these rotate just like that. And we're gonna drop this in and seat it all the way just like that. And it's got a shut-off valve right here. Next, we're gonna take one of these. This is really cool. This is our mister, but we can adjust the settings on it. We're gonna take this and we're just gonna push this into here till it's seated all the way, just like that. And it won't come out unless you push this collar, then it will come out. But it won't come out if you have it in just like that. The cool thing is these are bendable. I'll show you, you could adjust them any way you want, but we'll see after we get all these connected and I get this baby on so you can see how it works. Let's get this last one in. Just push it till it's all the way seated. Now, right here is where the water is going to be coming in. What do we do in a section right here where maybe the mister or we can't get this to reach as it starts to drip or something? Here's what we do. These right here, we could take this and fold it down. Next, we're going to come in here. We're going to grab this mini hose right here and this stake. And we're going to take this mini hose, let me open it up, and then attach it to here. Just push it in till it's seated, just like that. Next, we're going to decide where we want to put this stake because this stake is going to drip or put out some mist for us. So if this section is not getting enough water after we get the system set up, we can say we're going to put a stake here, we're going to attach this hose to it. We find where we want to put it, take our hose, cut it to length, grab our hose and just connect it just like that. Now this will, you'll see it in a little bit, this will mist or drop some water in a spot that's relatively dry. We're gonna do that at this other end over here too. After we turn the system on, let me show you how we get this set up to actually get some water running into it. Next, we're gonna grab this piece right here. We're gonna bring it over, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend it into a U. So just like this, just like that. Now I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna push it into this end, which is different from the other pieces, just like this. Push it down like that. Next, I'm going to take my shut off right here for the whole bed, and I'm going to push it into here like that. Then what I want to do is I want this to come down to the ground. So I'm just going to take another piece of this hose, push it up in here till I know it's seated in. Then I'm going to see how low I want it, just say about here, and I'm going to cut this piece just like this. Next, I'm going to take one more additional piece like this. I'm going to push this in like that until it's seated, so it can sit on the ground just like this. For one end of that, I'm going to take a cap and cap it like this to block the water, and then from the other end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the remainder of my hose here. We can cut it to whatever length we want. So this is what's left. And I'm going to attach my hose to this side. This extra hose like this. Then with whatever's here, they give us extra so we can connect them all together. We're gonna take this is what's gonna connect to our actual hose. We're gonna push this in just like that. Next, we're gonna grab our actual hose and we're just gonna attach it simply like this. And the system is ready to go. Let's take a step back really quick as we turn it on. So I'll make sure, I'll open all the valves up here. This is open, that's open. We're gonna open all these so they start to mist right away. But I'm going to close this, keep this one closed because I don't have anything attached yet. So we'll open all these up and we'll just bend them over so the mist stays in the bed. Or we can adjust the heads as you'll see, just like this. Everything's open. Then we'll just open up the hose line. And bam, We're cooking with gas. Let me turn it off for a second. It's misting so much, it's kind of going back into my camera. So if we step back just a little bit, I'll turn it back on. And the cool thing is we can adjust all these misters. We can adjust the pressure going to them if we want. Also, we can adjust the heads so it's not as much of a mist. We could change it to something more like that. And if we change it to something that's tighter like this and reduce the overall pressure, then we can get to something more of a drip, directed right at the plants. We need to come by and adjust each one. That's why it's nice though, to make sure we get consistent drip on all of them. But the idea is we can either send it right into the root zone once we have it all balanced pressure-wise, which take a little bit of playing around, but we can adjust the pressure, have everything dripping at the root of the plants if we have plants that don't like to get their leaves wet. As you're seeing the drip start to come. Close this one off a little bit. Adjust all the others. So we can even switch them to a drip for the plants that don't like to get their leaves wet. Right at the root zone, directed wherever we want it. This one I'll have to adjust a little bit too. Well, I gotta at least open that one up. Check that out. Beautiful. And if we want, this is an extra one, we could run another hose to, put a stake in if we have a section that remains dry. A incredibly versatile setup, easy to use, easy to set up, and I mean, this is going to make watering my raised beds and watering in general a lot easier and a lot more customizable to be able to adjust anything to where we want to do it. These bend every direction you could think of. An incredible product. We're selling them over at teamgrow.us. You gotta grab them because I know these things are gonna be selling out super quick. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you truly got value out of this video. The thing is with gardening, you have to look at it with such a holistic approach. So it's tough to just break down one section of gardening and kind of explain that without getting into every other aspect. So I can't talk about watering without talking about mulch, without talking about diseases, and without talking about, you know, soil structure and a lot of those other things. What we try to do is we try to understand each part of gardening separate, and then we take a step back and bring it back into the fold of a whole holistic approach, similar to like the shirt I have here or just in general. We have a bunch of streams and all those streams come together to form a river. So all these different parts of gardening need to come together to form this river, and that's when the garden really starts to flow. Again, if you guys like these shirts, I'm in love with this design. To me, it speaks so much of permaculture without saying it, and it speaks to like a deeper level of growing and a deeper understanding of nature and the natural world, and that's all to just give it a higher level of respect because this is what amazes me. This is what gets me excited to be outside, getting my hands in the garden. Even if it is 100 degrees, I'm hopping around like an idiot, sweating like crazy, even through my shirt. I still have an absolute blast out here. Even though it's different without having Tuck around, but today it would be too dang hot for him anyway, so. Spam some hearts down low if you missed the young boss. We miss him too. I'll stick a couple of clips of him at the end of the video just for a lot of you to, you know, to reconnect. He's always what inspires me to get out into the garden, so if I'm ever feeling low, I can go back, check on how the boss is doing. One other thing, the homestead is looking insane. We made some massive changes. I mean, we moved some earth, I'll put it that way. I'm excited to show you guys that, but I want to have things a little more set up so it's a true, you can see the true change from when I showed you last to when I show you now. I'm amped to show it, and I hope you guys are excited about it as well. I also wanted to mention, you guys gotta check out the community over at teamgrow.us. We have well over 2,000 people now posting all the time. Everyone's sharing what they're doing, helping one another out. It's truly become a beneficial community, and my favorite part about it is even if I just step away and I wasn't even a part of this anymore, the community will still grow, it'll still thrive, and it will still be creating more gardens. That's the whole idea, to grow a better future together. I also wanted to mention thank you to one of our new channel members, Carol Tucker. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. I appreciate all you guys, and there's nothing better than being out in the garden and sharing that. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thanks for being part of the community, and thanks for being part of the team. We'll catch you guys on another one real soon. We out.